Hi everyone, welcome to Redesigning School Counseling for Districts. This is our first district webinar and we're really excited to have 18 districts joining us, and we'll also be working today this afternoon with 109 brand new schools that are joining 50 schools that are already participating in the first year Redesigning School Counseling process. So we're just really thrilled to be able to expand Redesigning School Counseling to more districts and schools across the state. So my name is Sue Reynolds and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute. As you explored RSC, I'm sure you learned a lot about our organization. But the nice thing to remember is that RSC is a proven process. And then also participating on our call, who will be answering the questions that you type in and referring them to me as well, is Debbie Howell. Debbie is one of our strategic planning specialists for Redesigning School Counseling. So, okay. So here's our agenda for this hour or so that we'll be spending together. We want to do a quick introduction for the district and then talk about this month's activities. So we want to give you a heads up about what your schools are going to be doing in the month of January, and then also things that you can do as a district to support the schools, to help coordinate them, to monitor them, to help with evaluation later. So we'll always be giving you ideas about things that you can do as a district to support your school's activities. And then finally, we'll, as we close, we hope that you'll go right into a district discussion about how you will or will not support your schools in the coming month. So that's a quick overview of the agenda for today. So let's begin with the intro. First of all, just a reminder, RSC District is designed to help districts monitor, guide, coordinate, and evaluate the process of school counseling improvement across the district. With the big words there are coordinate and evaluate. Those are the things that we'll really be focusing on big time as we work with you in the next 5 months. So also a reminder, RSC is a proven program design process. So we know you had lots of different technical assistance providers that you could have possibly worked with. We're very pleased that you're working with us, and we think you made a good selection because RSC is a proven process. We have research that shows that RSC has an impact on academic achievement. We also know that our professional development model works. We have 129 schools in Indiana that we've served that have earned the very prestigious National Ask a Ramp Award. And you can see that most other states in this chart have just 5 or 6 different ramp schools, so 129 is really significant, and all of those were assisted by our organization. And then we hope at the end of this year to be able to add another 150 schools to that number. I might mention also that when we designed RSC, we designed it to go to scale statewide. So it's very easy for us to add 150 schools or to add 300 or 800 schools all at once. So we're really excited to be able to take this number from 129 to 129 plus 150. Also, just as a reminder, in terms of why we consider ourselves a proven process, other organizations such as the Indiana Chamber of Commerce have studied our work and have come up with comments like this, that RSC is a consistent and comprehensive process for schools to examine, organize, and redesign their school counseling program. So as you're starting RSC with us right now, we want you to have confidence that you're working with a proven system and that you're working with a system that's going to make a difference for the kids in your district. So also would like to review our deliverables. So these are the things that we'll be providing for you over the next 5 months. First of all, the webinars, like the one we're doing right now. So these webinars, except for today, they will be held 1 week prior to when we meet with the schools, your schools. Today, just because of our time constraint, we're doing our district webinar this morning, and then we'll do the school webinar this afternoon at 3:30. But in all other months, we'll meet with you a week before we meet with your schools. So the focus of these webinars will always be on what your schools are doing in the next month. So we'll look at an overview, terminology, what their projects will be for the next month. We'll give you an opportunity to embed district level requirements into the school's next step. And then we'll also give you an opportunity to consider how you might support the schools. And that's what we're going to do big time today, is talk about how can you support the schools in January as they're getting started. Here are all of our dates. So you can see that in the district, here are the 5 webinars. And I'll show you how to register for these webinars if you haven't already. And I think most of you have registered for all 5 webinars, so we're good with that. But you can see that the district webinars will happen about a week before the school's webinars. So in each of these webinars that we do, including today, we're going to end with a district level discussion or a district level kind of think tank. So today we're going to talk about how the schools are getting organized, and then at the end of this webinar we're going to invite you to talk about how you might support the districts. So each month we'll look at that. How can, as a district, can you support, coordinate, integrate your work with what your schools are doing. Another deliverable that we're providing is an admin system specifically for the district. Our staff have been really busy working on that since the moment we found out about the Lilly initiative to this morning. So I'll be able to show you some of that today. Parts of this will become available. We hope to have everything kind of up and running with it by the end of the month. But the parts that you need for today, you'll be able to use. So basically, the process page looks like this, and this is your admin page, and there will just be steps for you to do, different links where you can go to look at reports or open up tools. And at the end of this webinar, we'll go in and I'll show you how to use these. In the coming months, you'll be able to monitor school progress. So you'll be able to see, here's all of our schools, in our district, and here's which schools have submitted work to ASA and what's been approved by ASA. You'll also be able to look in the future at district level data. So we're really excited about that. You'll be able to look at disaggregated data for all of your schools. So there'll be a new disaggregated data report for districts that will allow you to look at all of your schools' data side by side. And another tool will be for you to look at your school's goals compared to their activities. So in this chart, for example, we've got the school's goals: turn in homework, create a 4-year high school course plan, helping kids take an AP or dual credit course, and then we can see which schools have set which goals, and this will help you see where schools might work together. It also might help you see where schools have a void or have omitted a goal that maybe you think is important. So in this case, Smith Middle School is implementing a goal around helping kids create a 4-year high school course plan, where Jones Middle School has not. And so that will give you a chance as a district to kind of talk with the schools about or to help coordinate the goal setting between schools where that might be appropriate. Also, you'll be able to find places where schools' goals maybe are overlapping, and so you can help the schools determine where it might be good to work together to save time and energy resources. And then you might see places also where there's, again, a gap, where we've got 3 of the elementary schools that have a goal to help kids participate in job shadowing. One school does not, and so you might want to bring that to that school's attention. So I'm really excited about this tool. We're developing it right now, and that will be available for you as schools start to set their goals. One other thing we can see in this demonstration is that Brown Elementary School hasn't set any goals. So we can see that they're, behind, and as a district person, that may be something that you want to engage in to see if you can help Brown get engaged. Okay, we'll also have several unique reports for you as a district person. For example, there will be a district activity report where we list the goals that are held by your schools and then what each school is doing to achieve those goals. So we think this will help you when it's time to write your implementation grant for Lily. So you'll have all this information in one place at your fingertips. You'll also be able to send targeted emails using the online system. We're going to actually suggest today that you send a targeted email to your steering team, so to the steering teams across your district. So we'll show you a little bit more how to do that when we get into the online system. And then another thing that I think is really going to help you in the implementation grant that you write in May is we'll be able to provide district-wide data for each goal that one or more schools in your district holds. So, for example, turning in homework. This report is telling you that there are 2 schools in your district that have that goal. This is how many students are enrolled in those 2 schools. And this is how many students said that they reported that they were already doing whatever the goal was. So in this case, 20%, and then you'll be able to provide target data and also results data for that data field. So really excited about that, and I think that's going to help you write your implementation grant in a way that's very strong. Okay, another deliverable is on-call support, which is unlimited. I personally will be providing the on-call support for districts. So anytime you have a question, please feel free to call me. You might want to jot down my phone number right now and my email address. So it's 812-349-4142. That's our office number, and whoever answers the phone will get you to me or take a message. And then our email address, reynolds@asainstitute.org. You can reach me through email. I try to check my emails every morning, and your emails will be my priority emails because I really want to make sure that we're supporting our districts in a very sound way. So I think I've been able, so far the emails that have come in, I've been able to respond to all of them same day. So yeah, so please feel free to contact me. I'm very eager to answer your questions, and I'd really prefer that you view me as part of your team, that we're working on this together. We're helping you implement a really strong district-wide initiative, and the feedback that you give us helps us to design a really good system. So I kind of view us as partners as this. You're helping us, we're helping you. So, okay. Wanted to touch on the fee for a moment. We will be billing your district for your district fee and the school fee. So when you enrolled, the enrollment form told you what that amount would be, but just wanted to let you know that we will be billing your district, and we'll be billing you after you tell us that Lily has notified you that you have been awarded the grant, the planning grant. So, okay. Little bit of looking ahead, and then we'll pause and take questions. So if you have questions, make sure you're typing them in. So looking ahead, we are assuming that your districts are very interested in applying for the Lily implementation funds. You may not have decided yet if you're going to do that, but we know that you're thinking about it. So just wanted to give you a heads up that on May 1st or slightly before May 1st, your schools are going to be giving you their program components for the school counseling programs that they're designing. Those components will include their individual school goals and priority goals, their delivery models, if it's going to be a traditional school counselor delivered program, or if it's going to be a non-traditional delivery model that involves community organizations delivering guidance activities, or teacher advisor program, or parents as advisors. So we're going to be teaching your schools about non-traditional delivery models so that they can think about using one of those models if they want to. And then also the program components that they give you will include all of the activities that they're doing. We're going to explore giving that information to you in reports that aggregates all of the information for all of your schools. We think that'll make it easier for you to take all of that information from 8, 9, 18 different schools and put that information into one implementation grant for Lilly. So that's kind of where we're headed with that. The schools will also give you a 4-year implementation timeline. We normally do a 1-year implementation timeline. We'll do one year at a time, but we know that for your Lilly implementation grant, you need a 4-year implementation timeline, so we'll ask the schools to do that. And then our plan is to kind of aggregate all of that, everybody's timelines, so that you have one master timeline for your district. And then also we'll give you the school's funding needs, and we plan on providing that for you in a couple of ways. One would be that you could open up an individual school and see what kind of funding they're thinking that they need to implement their program over the next 4 years. And then also we'll aggregate all of that information together so you can see, okay, across your districts, here's all of the travel funding that's being requested, or here's all of the materials funding that's being requested. So that's where we're kind of headed. We think those will be great tools for you that will make writing your implementation grant a whole lot simpler. And then as a reminder, on May 19th, your implementation grants are due to Lilly. Between May 1st and May 19th, we will be providing you with some support to help you do that, including a friendly read of your implementation grant that you've created. So yeah, so that's what's coming up in May, and we just wanted to kind of let you know that's where we're headed. Okay, let's pause then. That's the quick overview of the district RSC. And Debbie, do I have questions to answer at this point?
We have no questions at this time.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm sure I didn't explain everything perfectly, so if you have questions, please make sure you're typing them in. The advantage of typing in your questions instead of asking them later, that's very helpful, I think, to other schools, because if you have a question, probably the other districts have that same question. So please do type in questions as you have them. Okay, so in this section, I want to talk about two things. One is what the schools are going to be doing, so that you'll understand, you know, where they're headed in the next month. And then we'll talk about, after that, what the districts will be doing this month. When I talk about the school activities, I'm not going to be talking about instructions for how to do those activities. I'm just giving you a heads up of what the schools are doing. In the school webinar, we'll be going into the details about how to do each of the activities to make sure that the schools can hit the ground running. But in the district webinars, we're just going to talk about the school activities in a very broad way. Okay, so with that, here are the school's activities for January. So later this afternoon, we'll be asking your schools and preparing your schools to do these 5 activities. One is we're going to ask them to complete a page on our website, which we call the RSC uses page. On that page, the schools will be asked to tell us if they're a first-year school, which is what they'll check, if they're planning on applying for Gold Star, if they're planning on applying for RAMP, and if they're planning to, if the district is planning to apply for the Lilly implementation grant. So that's one thing that we'll be showing them how to do this afternoon. Then we're also going to talk with them about putting together a steering team roster. And then here's the rubric for that steering team roster. We'd like 5 people to be on each school steering team. A primary contact person's been identified in each school, and that will be the primary contact for us and also for you. Then we're going to divvy up the tasks, so each of those 5 people will have a separate set of tasks to do, so we'll split the work. And then we also need to make sure that at least one member of the steering team is a school counselor. If the school does not have a school counselor on staff, the schools can work around that or meet that requirement by having a school counselor from another school sit on their steering team. So the steering team members then do not have to all be school counselors. They can be parents, they can be teachers who are thinking about being a school counselor someday. They can be the school counseling secretary. It doesn't have to, it can be anybody that is willing to be a worker bee. So, okay. Then the next part that we think is really, really, really important that we're going to be talking to the schools about is convening a very robust school counseling council. If your schools are already participating in RSC, we're going to ask them to beef it up when we meet with them, to beef up their council. And if they're working with us for the first time, we're really going to hit this hard. I'm sure you've read the Lilly RFP, and all through the RFP it talks about the importance of partners, community stakeholder groups in writing the implementation grant, and then later we want to be able to show that they can also be involved in delivering the activities. So here is the rubric. We're looking for counselors on each school's council. We're looking for teachers at different grade levels, teachers at different subjects, school administrators, students from different grade levels, students enrolled in different curriculum. For example, high ability students, career and tech ed students, special needs students, parents, economic development. This is key. We're really going to push this hard with the schools. Service clubs like Kiwanis or Lions, in both these groups, actually all three of these groups, parents, economic development, service clubs, faith-based organizations, mental health organizations, these folks can later be helping with implementation, which we think is going to be very unique to our school's implementation grants. And I think is really what's, reading between the lines, we really think that that's going to be of interest to Lilly. I think I've mentioned before that we have a history of working with Lilly on innovative school counseling programs, and it's actually our whole RSC initiative grew out of a Lilly initiative that was very similar to the initiative that they're implementing today. So we think we have a really good handle on the kinds of things that interest Lilly, and having sustainability is one of them, and sharing responsibilities for program delivery is another. So we really want to make sure that the schools are focusing on having a very comprehensive, sound group of council members. Later I'm going to talk about how you can help them do that, but we think that's a really important step. Then the other thing we're going to do with the schools is to help them understand how to give our survey, and they'll be surveying students this month. And it's not real time consuming because we divvy up the responsibility for that among all the teachers in the building, so that can work really well. But again, as a district person, you can help your principals understand how important that survey is to this initiative. And then finally, in terms of collecting data, we're going to ask the counselors to start to fill out a counselor time use log. So they'll start to complete that every day. Every counselor in the building will be doing that for 2 months. And actually most of our counselors do it forever because it's such good data to have, but we'll be using data from the next 2 months to help us make some decisions about how our counselors' time should be used. So, so those are the activities that the schools will be doing. And then a couple other additional activities. One of the things we're going to ask schools to do this afternoon is to find out from you if you intend to apply for the Lilly implementation grant, and if so, just a ballpark estimate of the amount of funding that they're going to have if you get the implementation grant. So I'll talk more about that in a minute, but the schools kind of need to have a sense, am I going to have, 2 cents to implement my 4-year program? Or am I going to have, $50,000? Or, what can I expect to have for my use to implement the program that we're designing? And then finally, we're going to ask them if they have written into their your planning grant, as soon as you know that you have the planning grant, to go ahead and register for the conferences that you're planning to attend. And our recommendation is, if you haven't named your conferences already, this Evidence-Based School Counseling Conference in San Diego, we've presented at that conference several times, and it's really, really a good conference of proven school counseling activities. So, okay. So let me stop again, ask Debbie, before I go on to the district activities, any questions about the school's activities?
We have one question from Christy that is the school counseling council roster the same for the district, or should that be per school?
Excellent question. So let me clarify, and I really appreciate those questions because it gives me a chance to understand maybe what I didn't explain as well as I needed to. So I really love clarifying things when those questions come up. So to answer your question, it is the school's councils are different than the district council. So for your district council, we asked you to have one person to a group of people, your choice. I think most of the districts that I've talked to have decided to put together a group of people with a representative from each school. So that will help you kind of try to coordinate things between schools. I kind of like that idea, but that would mean that your school people would have to attend 2 different webinars, the webinar for districts and the webinar for schools, because the content's not going to be the same. So as an alternative, it would be okay with us to just have one person participate in the district who would then later bring together the school people to say, okay, these are things we need to coordinate. And that's fine as well. So either way. So that's the district focus, and the district's focus mainly is going to be on coordinating what's happening between the different schools, as well as monitoring what's happening in the schools and looking at how we're going to evaluate the schools later. And if the district's going to mandate any activities, this district team will understand when to mandate them so that the time is right for the schools. So, okay, so that's the district team. The school team is the team that we just talked about. Let me go back to that. So the school team is this team. The school team is this team. The school team of 5, they will be managing the initiatives in their building. And there needs to be one school team in every building. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because we need to coordinate that a little bit. So in a second, we're going to talk about how you can help with that. There will be places where school teams can work together. For example, before a building level discussion, you might want to bring the councils from all of the schools together, where you do a presentation and give the discussion prompt. Then you break into building level teams, and each building level council talks about that prompt for their building. So, and again, when we set up that first meeting, which will be what we do in our the January 24th webinar, we'll talk about how to help your schools set up that first discussion. We'll talk more about ways that schools can work together. So we don't need to understand that now. I'm getting kind of ahead of myself, but I wanted to make sure you understood why we were having a separate steering team in each of the schools. Okay, hope that answered your question. If not, type in something more and I'll be happy to clarify. Debbie, any other questions come in?
We have a comment from Lydia. She's having some issues with audio, but you seem to be good on my end, so I think we're good there. I have Angela asked if some of the people can be on both the district and the school team.
Absolutely, and I actually think that's a good idea. The model that we've seen most districts do, and again, you know, this is, we've kind of tossed out options and we're watching to kind of see what you do, and I'll always let you know when we start to see themes. The theme we're starting to see for this is that the point person in, or the contact person in each school is also serving on the district team. So yes, people would serve on the district team and their individual school team. Yes. Other questions?
Okay, one more.
Okay.
There are many other conferences listed on various websites, such as the ASCA. Is it necessary that we register only for the conferences listed on the PowerPoint slides, or can we register for others?
Good question. Thank you. I should have said that. No, you're open. You're always open in RSC to do whatever you want. Especially at the district level. So if you think that there are conferences that are more pertinent to your needs, that would be that would be great. Also, as we get further into this process, you'll start to see what, more specifically, what your needs are. For example, when we get to the root cause analysis, if you start to see that students aren't completing a FAFSA because the data is saying they don't know what a FAFSA is, then you might go out exploring at that point, what schools are really doing a good job at FAFSA completion, and then you'll go to explore what are they doing. So the conferences that we've listed right now are more general in nature. When we get into root cause step, which is coming 2 months from now, then we'll help you fine-tune your searching, and we'll also give you lots of ideas of, here are schools that are doing more, for the more common root causes, here are some schools that are doing some cool things. We also have a database of activities that you can go in and search, and so your exploration is not just with going to these conferences. This is just the first step of exploration, and it's in a very general way at this point, because we really want the data to drive this initiative and not your hunches. One of the first things we're going to say to your schools is that if they have any thoughts about what they think they're going to do with this implementation funding, to throw those thoughts out the window, because those thoughts at this point would be based on hunches rather than a really sound study of your students' data and your school's needs. So we really encourage schools not to have any thoughts right now. Let them look at the data first, and then we'll make those thoughts. And when we get to the school intro, which we're also going to ask you to watch an archived version of if you're not participating live, we'll kind of talk about all of that as well. So really good questions. Anything else?
Okay. Yep, one more, and I think you kind of addressed this, but just in case.
Okay.
Should we register for all three that you have listed, or just the one in San Diego or only one we consider San Diego?
Yeah, again, that's kind of up to you and how much funding you've included in that line for exploration, for attending conferences and doing site visits and all that. If you've got a gazillion dollars and a gazillion amount of time, I go to all three of them. I go to a million. But you kind of have to judge, how much money do you have, how much time do you have, and keep in mind that this is just the start. Later, we're going to be saying, okay, if you're interested in a teacher advisor program as a delivery model, here's a really sound program in Dallas. Go visit that. If you're interested in engaging parents in the delivery of guidance activities at home over the dinner table, here's a school that's doing that in Rhode Island. Go visit that. So I would definitely not exhaust all of your dollars on these conferences. It's kind of we're kind of guessing at this point. We really don't know where this is going to end up and what your exploration needs are going to be. So at this time, I wouldn't, spend all of your funding on going to conferences. If I'd maybe hit one or two, depending on how much money you have. So, and again, for some of our schools, and this is why I'm kind of talking both extremes. For some of our districts that only have 2 buildings in the whole district, the amount of money per school in this planning grant was huge. Um, like $15,000. I mean, it was just crazy. In other districts where there were a lot of schools, and when we started looking at how much money would be available in this planning grant per school, I mean, it was less than $1,000. So the amount of money in each district that you have to divvy up to support your schools really varies. So, okay, so I hope that answered that. Other things, Debbie?
You got them all answered. Thank you, Sue.
Okay, sounds good. And thank you for all those questions. That really makes these webinars rich when this could be a discussion. And you're giving us feedback and we're answering questions. And again, one of the reasons I love our professional development model is we start to look for themes, and we'll kind of share those with you, and you ask questions, and that might have been something another school or another district didn't think to ask. So this is really good. Okay. So let's talk about the district activities. First of all, I should have said almost in there, almost all district activities are optional. There are no requirements for districts. There are no submissions for districts. These are all just things that we're suggesting that we think would be helpful to your schools. There are a couple of exceptions to that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So here are the activities that we suggest that your district participates in this month. And I'm looking at this slide and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to look totally overwhelming. There's 9 things on this slide. Most of these are really, really tiny. It will take you 30 seconds. So let's just walk through this, and I just kind of like to talk about each of them. Type in your questions as we go, and we'll go from there. So, okay, so first of all, enter your district steering team members into the district online system. We hope that you'll be able to do that today. If not, we would like there to be at least one person in the online system today so that we have a contact person. So this is required in today. Then tell each school how much funding they will have to spend at the discretion of the planning phase. And hopefully, because you've already written that planning grant, you'll be able to share that with your schools today. That'll help them understand the funding that they have available to do these different visits, or to go to conferences, or to pay for meals for their council meetings, or whatever. So if you haven't talked to each school about how much money they had in their hands to spend to support their work, that needs to happen, and right away, because the schools are starting to work today. So, okay. If you haven't sent your district requested survey questions to us, please do so. In the control panel, I put another set of instructions there if you don't have that. Those are due on Friday, and I'll talk more about those in a second. And then the next one is RSC uses. Make sure your schools know when you're notified that you have your planning grant. There's a little box that the schools have to check on their website that lets us know that we do have planning funding for that school. We're assuming that everybody's getting their planning funding since it's a non-competitive grant, but when you've been notified, please let us know. Okay, so now here is the first kind of thing that I'd really like you to think about. For your schools, if you have multiple schools in your district and they're all now looking at recruiting people from your community, you may want to help those schools coordinate that a little bit. For example, let's say you have 8 schools that are participating in RSC, and you have one big business in your county, or maybe 4 big businesses in your county. Do we want all of the schools to call the same person, the same business, Or do we want to sit down with our schools and say, okay, here's 8 schools, here's 8 of our, biggest employers. School A, why don't you call, the Blue and Company. School B, why don't you call this manufacturing firm, so that your businesses are not being all contacted by schools to serve on 8 different councils. So in terms of who your schools will be looking to recruit, people from economic development, chamber of commerce, and business and industry. So you might coordinate that with your schools to say, okay, this elementary school, why don't you contact the economic development? And high school, why don't you contact the chamber of commerce? And so we're kind of divvying that up. Same thing with your service clubs. We researched service clubs, the major service clubs in Indiana, and 80% of them have serving youth in their mission statement. So we think that later service clubs could help implement your school counseling program, and we really want to get them then involved at the ground level. So again, you could say to your schools, okay, school A, which of these service clubs would you like to contact? Oh, you've got a connection with a Kiwanis club? Okay, good. You work on recruiting someone from Kiwanis. School B, oh, you know someone in Lions. Let's recruit Lions Club then. So same thing with your faith-based organizations, and same thing with the mental health organizations. Remember that Lilly has, as part of their outcomes, of their initiative, listed that kids have social personal health. So we really want to make sure that the mental health folks in your community are getting involved in this initiative as well. So who are the major mental health organizations in your county? And again, divvy them up so schools are not all going after the same mental health organization. And then we're not going to require it, but we're going to strongly suggest that the community foundation be involved on a council or more, local government, public library, and higher education. So again, these could be divvied up. The middle school could work with recruiting somebody from Ivy Tech. The high school could recruit someone from an apprenticeship program. If there's satellites of the public library, we could go after different satellites. So we really think that this might be a nice place to coordinate the schools in your district. Okay, so that would be one big help, big help that you could give your schools. Okay, number 6 is to tell each school if the district plans to apply for the implementation grant, and if so, then that ballpark estimate. If you're applying for, if you're eligible to apply for $100,000, how much of that money would each school actually have to support their the program that they're designing. If you tell the schools, for example, that they have 2 cents, that's really going to limit the amount of professional development that they're able to provide. It'll limit the scope of their design in a major way. If you tell them you have $20,000, if we get the grant, you could, that portion would be yours to work with. Then that, that kind of opens up their planning a little bit. Okay, so that's 6. Number 7, we think it would be really nice for your superintendent or for you to send a thank you note to everybody who's agreed to serve on your school steering teams. And we have a tool where you can do that really quickly. I'll show you that a little later. We want you to watch the school intro video. That will be posted tomorrow morning. I'll show you how to access that. And then to register for our next webinar, our next district webinar on January 24th. So those are kind of little tasks to do. The only one that's really major is number 5, is to help your schools kind of coordinate their recruitment efforts. Everything else is really minor in time and energy. So, okay, a couple other words and then I'll pause for questions again. Things to consider in terms of your planning grants, so the planning funding. This is how we suggested to you that you split your money, and if you wrote your planning grant so that it didn't specifically say yet how much money would be supporting each school, We would like to see at least $2,700 so the schools could do these things. If you can get the schools more money, that would be wonderful. The more funding they have, the more exploration they can do, the more they can make their council meetings more user-friendly by providing meals or having a meeting off-site. So again, we just kind of wanted to revisit this. In terms of the implementation funding, just a reminder that if your district has more than 1,000 students, the amount of money that you'll have in the next 4 years is $100 per student. If you have fewer than 1,000 students, then the amount of money that you'll have for the next 4 years is $100,000. So we need you to communicate what that means to the schools. So if you'll do that right away, that would be great. Also remember that the funding period on the implementation grant is a 4-year period, so if you're getting $100,000, it's not $100,000 to all spend at once. Okay. And then also I wanted to just touch base with you. I'm assuming that you've read the RFP from Lily, but in the implementation grant, this is what they've listed as the grant making criteria. I just want to quickly go through this so I'm sure, so that I know that you've heard this and thought about it. So we need the districts to use relevant research. We'll help you do that because your research will be connected with your root cause analysis. That's what will make it relevant. Compare actual practices to comprehensive practices. Your schools will be doing self-studies and we'll have information to pull from that into your grant. Identify strengths of their current program. That will be part of the school's process. You'll be able to pull from that. Provide a well-developed and compelling rationale for your funded practices. And I think you're going to shine at that because you'll be able to say, here's the choice we want kids to make. Here's why kids aren't making those choices. Here's what we're going to do about it, and here's how much money it's going to cost. And that's why we put this amount in our grant application. So I think that we're going to really shine with that one. Engaging community partners and external stakeholders in developing the proposal. Absolutely, that's going to happen through the council, and we're going to go a step further by having them not only being involved in planning, but also as an option being involved in delivering. So, okay. Indicate financial and in-kind support from partners and stakeholders. That delivery of programming can be in-kind support, so you're going to have things there. Show a commitment to implementing and sustaining. You're going to have, we're going to give you lots of advice on how to write a sustainable plan. And then very step-by-step process for implementing. So I think that will big time show the commitment that you have. Plans to provide sufficient funding to implement and sustain the initiative. Some of that funding can be from the Lilly Implementation Grant. Plans to provide matching support. We think that's going to be really big, that Lilly will look at that to show that this is something that has support in the community, that people are willing to put their time and their funding behind it. Matching support does not have to be money. It can be time. And again, if the Kiwanis Club is going to implement this part of the program and your teachers are going to implement this part of the teacher advisor program, these are all matching support. It's all support of the school counseling program in addition to what the counselors are doing. So I think we're going to have that one nailed. Commits to an evaluation plan. I think data is our middle name. That's not going to be a problem at all. You're going to have tons and tons of data. And you'll have baseline data, you'll have target data, and then later within the implementation years we'll have follow-up data. School was creative in their program design. I think we're kind of national thought leaders in innovation in school counseling, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. And we've already got a plan that we're going to talk to your schools about making their proposals very innovative, that we'll share with you. And then designing a program that enhances the counseling effort and student impact, so no problem there. So I think that the grant-making criteria and the work that we're doing with you is going to work really well together. I'm really confident that many of our districts will receive implementation funding. So, okay. The district survey questions, and I think I'll take questions after this. As I mentioned, those are due Friday. The instructions are in the control panel. Several districts have sent in their questions already. There's a couple things I wanted to mention. Again, this is themes that we're seeing that we can help all of you with. A couple of districts sent in their questions that were written as statements to be answered by true, false, rather than questions. So we sent the questions back to them and asked them to rewrite them. So I would make sure that there's a question mark after each item that you give us, and that the answer then would be yes and no, or I don't know. Okay, one other thing is that we realigned the survey this year to align with the new Indiana competencies for school counseling, and that actually lengthened the survey a little bit. So the survey right now is probably a 45-minute survey taken online. If you add 20 additional questions, which you can if you'd like, but if you add 20 additional questions, that's going to make that survey even longer. So I'd think about that carefully and only put on questions that you really need to see answers to. We went over Christmas, we went through Christmas holiday, winter holiday. We went through and omitted all the questions that we didn't think were really pertinent. We left in all the questions that are important for Indiana Gold Star and RAMP. So there's a lot of questions in there because there's a lot of criteria in Gold Star and RAMP. And then there were a few questions that we think, based on our experience and our review of literature, are also important to put in there. So I just wanted to give you just kind of a heads up, especially if you are a middle school. Middle school is such a key year for student guidance, especially in 8th grade. And so there's a lot of questions in our middle school survey. So don't feel like you have to ask 20 additional questions. We've also talked to schools that have said, or districts that have said, we're not going to add any new questions. We think what you have is fine. And that's okay too. If you'll just send us an email and let us know, send me an email and let me know that you're not planning on adding survey questions, then that'll let me know that I don't need to nag you to do that. Okay, so that sounds good. Okay. Let me stop there, and then we'll finish up by talking about some additional benefits and show you the online system real quickly. Debbie, questions?
Yes, the first one I think you've kind of addressed, but just as a reminder, will the webinars be recorded so we can go back to listen to it again, because there's a lot of information on here? That's from Vicki.
Yes. So yes, all the webinars will be recorded. I'll show you where to access them in a couple minutes. So there is a lot of information, and I always worry, especially with these first webinars, that people are totally overwhelmed, and I suspect you probably are. It is real okay to call me tomorrow and say, I forget everything you said, Sue, and just say, I'm not sure what my first step is. I think when you get to the online system, that'll be pretty clear, but please feel free to call me. I don't want you wasting your time being confused, so just give us a call. But to answer your question, yes, they will be archived. Debbie?
Okay, next from Lydia, can we make changes to the survey questions we already submitted to shorten them if needed?
Yes, that would be fine. If you're going to do that, our tech people are in the process of editing all of your surveys right now. So immediately after this webinar, if you could send me an email telling me that you want to edit, so that I can stop our staff while you do that. And then we'll start again when you send us your revised copy. Good question.
And the last one, when I click on the link to see sample survey questions, it still says access denied. We would like to see the questions before we decide if we want to add anything specific. Is that possible?
Yeah, when we get into the online system, let's check that. The only thing, I know that we've checked it recently and it was working. I wonder if if there's a cookie in your hard computer that's causing you to go back to a cached version of that page, you might want to refresh and try again. But we'll check that when we get online. Okay, that was the last question, Debbie?
That's all, thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up pretty quickly here. I just wanted to make you aware that that at the end of this process, schools can qualify for Indiana Gold Star. Schools that want to do Gold Star will do 1 more month's worth of activities with us to finish up all those Gold Star loose ends. And then also schools can earn the ASCA Ramp Award, which is very prestigious. That's something I definitely think would be worth going after. One other thing that you might want to note is that their ASCA charges a fee to apply for that award. So in your grant funding, your planning grant funding, if you have some funding available to pay for that application fee, that would be, I think, very nice if you have some leftover funding to support that. So I think it's $350, $400 to apply for that award. So, and then also, of course, we're assuming that you will be not only developing a really wonderful program that's going to help the kids in your school, but also that you will be applying for funding to implement that program. So, okay, so let's look at the online system. I'm going to come out of the PowerPoint and open the online system. Okay, so this is when you log in, and I believe we sent you all login information this morning with your username and password. And I probably should have showed you when you log in, you go to, let me just do that real quickly, www.asainstitute.org/RSC, and that will take you to this page, which is kind of our general public page, and then you'll go into RSC district, and then you'll put in your username and password there, and that will bring you to this page. So, okay, so this is just kind of a step-by-step process. So anytime you can't remember what to do, you can just come to this page and go to step 1 and do it, and then check it off. Remember, for districts, nothing is submitted to us. Your schools will have a page that looks just like this, but they'll have a couple of extra columns. One will say rubric items, and then the other one will say submit. And the final one will say status of this submission, and we'll give them comments. So that's how we communicate with your schools. So, okay, so your first step is to read the RSC approach. I think that's a one-pager. It just talks about our philosophy of school counseling and how we design programs. This has been very leading edge across the nation and is starting to be, well, was picked up most recently by ASCA in their new ASCA Mindsets and Behaviors. So I think you'll enjoy this. It's fairly short. Then we want to register for the District 1 webinar. You did that, so you can check that one off. Participate in the webinar. You're doing that. If you are not able to participate live, this is where you'll find the archived version. So you can see as I hover over that, it says watch the webcast. And it's telling you right now that it's not available yet because we're going to record it this afternoon. Or I'm sorry, we're recording it right now. Okay, then watch the school intro. This is really important for you to do. This will be an hour webinar, and we'll never have you do that again. We're only doing it this time because we want you to hear the terminology, the organizational structure, the process that the schools are using. And rather than making this webinar into a 2-hour webinar with you, we just thought we'd have you at your own leisure watch this school webinar. So that will be posted by tomorrow morning, and you can watch that. Enter your district steering team members. You can see we'd like you to do that today. It works real easily. I'm going to, let me go back and show you how we did that. Okay, so in the enter column, I just clicked on that. I'm going to add a new person. I put in the person's contact information, hit save, and they appear. So I'm just going to put in oops, my first name is not Reynolds. My first name is Sue Reynolds. And I'd fill in the rest of this information. I think it's going to give me a flag if I don't put in my email address. Okay, then I'm going to hit save. Oh shoot, it wants my, oh, I put it in my home email, put it in the wrong one, put it in my email up there, hit save. Okay, so now I'm in. And then do fill out the rest of this information because that's going to help you later when you're contacting people. I can edit, I can remove this person. Let's, and so if you have, you know, a person from each school on your district council, you're going, or district team, you're going to put everybody in there. Okay, so I've got my people in. I'm going to go back to my process page, and let's say I'm lost. I don't know how to get back to the process page. The other thing I can do also is just go over here. These are all shortcuts, so I can click on the district process, and that'll take me back to this page as well. And really, to be honest with you, I only ever use these two tabs. The rest of these shortcuts I find that I never have to use, and 99% of the time I just use the process tab. So I come back here and I notice that my little check marks did not save, and that's because I didn't hit save. So I'm going to put them in again. I have done these things, and now I have entered my steering team members, and I'm going to hit save, and then that will save those. Okay. Then the next step is to select your district primary contact person. This is really important. We want you to do this today. And so I'm going to click that. This will give you a list of all of the people that you put in as your team members. Just check the one that's going to be the primary contact person for me, and then hit save. That does not make that person the queen bee or give them any kind of special powers. It just is, you know, who do I call if I need to call somebody from your district. Anytime we send out email to district folks, we send it out to this whole steering team. Okay, I'm going to go back to the district page, to the process page. So now I've done, and I will check that. These should have saved, these checks. That's a little glitch. Well, Debbie, if you want to make a note of that, and let's make sure we get that checked right away as soon as we can. Okay, then so I entered the contact person. In thanking the steering team members, if I click this, this is going to open up a tool where you can create an email list for all of the steering team members across your district and all of the schools. Don't worry about this stuff down here. This I'm using an in-house version where we make notes to each other, so this won't appear on when you see it. But I click create an email list. That's going to give you a list of all of the steering team members. You can see that in my pretend district, I don't have any pretend schools yet, so there are no names here. But it will just give you all of your steering team members and all of your schools together with commas between them. And then if you're using Microsoft Outlook doesn't like commas, they like semicolons. So just click there, and that'll change all the commas in your list to semicolons. So, okay. So back to the process page. And this line, review rubric items, that's going to disappear. That won't be there in a few days. We're working with our programmer to get that out. Monitor school progress. Schools will not have any work entered until after December 20th probably. So this will become live later in the month. But I showed you on the PowerPoint slide what that table will look like. And then if you want to, we're giving you tools where if you wanted to have a district vision, here's a tool where you can do that in the prompts and tells you what you'd write in each of those boxes. I personally don't think I would go ahead and do that for right now. I'd wait until I was closer to writing my grant application to start thinking about creating your district vision. Okay, and then save, and then that's it. So I'm about to take questions again, and then we'll close. So let me see. Yep, let me take questions and then we'll close. Debbie?
I don't have any questions, but you were going to give them a survey. Look at the survey piece.
Oh yeah, let's look at that. So I'm going to go down to the handouts that I gave you. Let me see if I can. Yep. So the handout is. I want to. Let me open that a different way. I think I still have it here. Here it is. Okay. So here's the handout we gave you. And I'm going to scroll down to. You may review the tentative list of survey questions on the survey question page. So I'm going to go to that. So control click. That opens that up. Yeah, and here it is. So here are all the survey questions. So depending on the grades that you have in your school, you can open those up. So let's say I want to see the 8th grade questions. If I open the student plans and choice questions, that opens that, and you've got to log. Okay, let me think. Well, I tell you what, let me go back first of all. Okay, I'm going to refresh this just to make sure I don't have a cached version. Let me go to 8th grade questions again. And it's asking you for username and password. Okay. Okay. I guess we're asking you to log in. Okay. So what you'll need to do, and as soon as we finish, I'll talk with our tech people about this, but what you need to do here is let me see if we can get you in this way. Yep. Okay. So we'll fix this. In the meantime, as a workaround, when you're asked, so I clicked on 8th grade plans and choice questions. Well, now it's captured my username and password, so it's not making me put it in. But what you can put in there is demo 123 for both the username and the password, and that will allow you to, it'll tell the computer that you're logging in as demo school, and it'll allow you to see the questions. Okay, so that will allow you to see the questions, and so here's the 8th grade questions, and for that type of question. But then remember that there are different types, and so here's the guidance needs questions. Most of these questions align with the gold star, so you can see there's several questions on there. The counseling needs questions, see the questions, those are the same for all grade levels. And then the what do we think about our school counselor questions, and these are aligned with the licensing standards for school counselors in Indiana. Okay, so yeah, demo 123 will get you into that, and then I'll work on making sure that you can get in without a password. So great question. We actually had that question before Christmas break, and we thought we had fixed it over Christmas break, but evidently we still have a little glitch in there. So, but there's the workaround. Just use demo 123. Okay, other questions? I know we're running over on time a little bit.
The only question that I see is that the school board has to, one of the schools, the school board has to approve all questions. Is there one place they can go to get a full list of questions?
What I would do, so we don't have a list of all of the questions in one document because in our system the questions are all entered and sorted by grade level. what you could do is provide your school board. I kind of thought about how you might want to do that, and you could provide your school board with this link to this page, give them the password demo123 so that they can go in and look at the questions that way. Yeah, I know that's a little bit cumbersome for your board, but I don't have any way right now to do that other than having them open up each grade level's questions by themselves. If there are any questions about FERPA, we are FERPA compliant. We've been over that with the head of the agency at the federal level. We just happened to meet at a meeting and explain what we were doing and got his blessing. We also hired an attorney that specializes in FERPA and school law to look over all of our practices, and we have a statement from that attorney saying that our handling of all student data is compliant with FERPA. So if you need that, we can provide that for you, and we'll be going over all this with the schools as well. So remember, when we talk with the schools, we'll go into all the details. So anything else, Debbie?
Nope, that's all we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is wonderful. Don't forget to call me if you have questions. And what I want to, well, first of all, let me say, I really try to limit this to an hour. I know that a lot of you probably had activities planned for 12 o'clock. And I don't think we'll have a problem keeping to an hour in the future. However, you might want to give me just a little bit of extra time in case we go over that you don't have something, right starting at the time that we're supposed to close. Also, we really recommend that immediately following these webinars, you go right into your district team discussions. So, and I'll always end up with this. So, with something like this. So, the district team discussion this time is to look at which of these optional activities do you want to do to support your schools. Specifically this time is, are you going to coordinate the recruitment of your community organizations between your schools? So if you're there as a district team, before you depart, I would suggest that you look at each of these, figure out who's going to enter this information and when are they going to have it done by, so all the required things, who's going to do it and by when. And then on the optional things, are these things that you want to do? And if so, who's going to kind of coordinate that? So before you depart from each other, let's have a plan for how you're going to follow up to support your schools. Okay, that's it. Debbie, any other questions?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, thanks everybody. And again, your follow-up questions should come to me, Sue Reynolds. Your schools will have Debbie or one of our other school support specialists, strategic planning specialists, providing support for them. And we'll talk with them about that this afternoon. So thanks everybody. I really appreciate you participating, and I really love it that you're supporting your schools and helping your schools get coordinated in their program planning as well as their program delivery. So, okay, thanks everybody, and call me if you have questions. See you.